Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters, as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we talk about all the home teams, the New Orleans Saints, the LSU Tigers, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Tulane Green Wave. We got one of the best to break it down tonight. Mike Detillier joins us on the program tonight. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Eric. Man, you're styling and profiling,
man,
brother.
I'm
losing all that weight, man.
Yeah.
You're styling in them suits
you
now.
know, my wife
good,
told me
brother.
it's Breast Cancer Month. You got to represent, so you know I'm doing it, right?
You're looking good, brother.
Thank
looking
you, my
good.
friend. Thank you. Mike, let the folks know a little bit about what's going on with you. Of course, radio, you're always on TV.
It's that time of the year.
It is.
You know, it's football season, so, you know, it's busy for me. And but I don't complain, man. I like it that way. So I just got that calendar, and every morning when I wake up, or I don't get waking up, so to speak, I look and see where I got to go. So I'm good. I'm good.
Well, a lot to talk about tonight. Let's start off with the Saints. Again, obviously a huge win. Going into the bye week against the Redskins, 4-1 now. Let's start off with Drew Brees. Your thoughts?
Man, I don't know what more I could add. Eric, he's just been phenomenal at 39 years old to see what he's doing. You know, at this level, to throw the football so well. And I tell this to a lot of people, say nationally, he's doing it without a running game. Just think about that. You know, this team hasn't really run the ball well at all season long, other than maybe one game. So he's just been terrific. I got to give credit where credit due. I think the offensive line play has been outstanding all season long. In particular, left tackle. I think Teron Armstead, he's played tremendously well. So all this is coming together. I don't know what more I can say about Michael Thomas. You know, he's just a stud receiver. Everything has worked out tremendously well. But to see him at this level, at 39 years old, is just remarkable. And he's always going to be the straw that turns the drink.
Mike, why, and it's not everywhere, but it is somewhere. We talked a little about it last week. We've talked about it on the radio show as well. The disrespect nationally, just not the type of respect you would think a guy with the accomplishments that he has gotten through the NFL would get. You know, we see some accolades and some bouquets thrown at him, but there are some out there that, again, will not give him his due.
Yeah, and a lot of it is a younger people, generational wise, that doesn't give him his due. That's the biggest surprise to me. You know, they always want to throw out Super Bowls, and he's going to be in the discussion of the very best. All of us have personal favorites.
Sure.
If it's Brady, if it's Manning, you know, my dad, it was Otto Graham. Nobody was going to be better than Otto Graham. You grew up in a certain time frame, Johnny Unitas, Joe Montana is in that discussion. But for him not to be in that discussion, to me, it goes to show what you don't know.
Right.
And listen, throughout the years, Bobby Hebert and I, we've talked about this, and doing national shows, you really find out what they don't know. Now, they have a certain look, they sound right, they might have played in the league, whatever, but their overall knowledge of history and today is limited.
They got the Cliff Notes.
That's all they go by. Listen, I want somebody to do background information so they can feed it to me.
Right.
You know, because people say you get fed stuff for radio when you do 4 hours. No. We do it. We don't have somebody else doing that for us.
Right.
You in that same sort of situation. The national people are a little bit different. They get it fed to them. So if somebody doesn't feed it to them, they don't say it. And if they left on their own, it goes to show what they don't know. What they don't know.
Mike, you obviously through your publication, your draft guide. Obviously, again, you're a guy that loves memorabilia. You keep a lot of stuff. It's an incredible collection of memorabilia. So you're a little bit of a sports historian.
Man,
is it hard? To me, it's hard to compare eras, though.
It is, because the game has changed dramatically.
And that's in every sport.
That's in every sport. Because, we went through the deal in baseball when it was the steroid era, where the home runs were just going through the roof. Was it fun to watch? It was entertaining, because baseball was, I don't want to say it was flatlined, but it was at the emergency room at that point. And then all of a sudden, McGuire and Sosa and Bonds come in. And then we find out there's a lot of other guys doing it. And I've had older baseball players tell me, if I was playing in that era, I'd have been doing it too. I have to keep up. And you're competitive. You want to keep up with that sort of thing. So it's difficult to compare eras when a guy like Graham or Y.A. Tittle or Unitas or Starr, at that era in time, you could bump a receiver all the way downfield until you threw the ball. And today, 5 yards, that's it. And when you got hit in the pocket, you got hit. There was no saving you from getting slammed on your head or whatever. Totally different world. Is it better? Is it worse? That's someone's personal call to look at it. But it's difficult to compare someone who played in the 1960s and playing today. Even Montana's era and comparing it to Drew today. The game is different.
Especially with the rule changes.
All about the rule changes. And I think when you make those rules, you have to understand that you are affecting the game. And you don't want it to be too one-sided. But Eric, they got exactly what they wanted. They got you to watch. Most people, 16-13, I don't want to watch that game. But if it's 36-33, they'll watch it. You know why? And two things, and they'll never admit it, but it's true. One, easier to gamble now, ever before, ever. You can do it online. You can walk into a casino now in Mississippi. All over, you can gamble. And it's easier. Secondly, fantasy football. And you got people, and I don't want to put it that way because I'm creeping up into those age groups, but I got people in their 70s and 80s calling me up about, man, give me a tip on fantasy. I have the third pick in round 2. I'm in the 10th. Okay. They keeping up, and a lot of them are women because their grandson is involved. So they want to be involved with it too. And I think now it's become, I'm not necessarily pulling for a team, I'm pulling for a player. So you're watching the game for the player, not necessarily a team. No, we grew up in a different era.
No,
totally different. You pulled for a team, you wanted to see a great game. You had 2 games on. One was on CBS, one was on NBC. And you had Monday Night Football. That was it. There wasn't 5,000 channels like they have today. Totally different world. And now that, why did the Red Zone get built by the NFL Network? So you could watch every scoring play.
For your fantasy team.
For your fantasy team. So the commissioner said, well, fantasy is not gambling. My thing is, if I got coin on the line each week, Eric, you know what I call that?
That's
gambling.
There's no doubt. And Mike, when you talk about the comparison of eras as well, it seems like people today only kind of really concentrate on what's going on today and don't really understand the history of the game. And that's across the board in all sports.
Yeah, I don't think so. Look, I think pro basketball we are watching maybe the best in our lifetime we've ever seen, where all these teams have a star player and they got good people on each and every team. Now, some teams are more loaded than others. And I watched the Celtics. They don't just have 5 starters. They got 5 guys on the bench that can come in outstanding. I watched Toronto, a very similar built type team, maybe not as good on the bench, but it's close. You see what's happening in LA with the Lakers and bringing in LeBron. So I think we're watching the best of pro basketball today. it's much better than when we grew up to watch it,
Right.
where there were some really bad teams.
Right, and it's as you mentioned, much like football, basketball, you can see all the games now where, I mean, you were lucky if you got, well, I mean, look, let's face it, when the Jazz left
Saturday
New Orleans,
and a Sunday game.
Yeah, you had to watch the NBA playoffs at 12:05 on Channel 4 after MASH. Remember that?
Yeah, because MASH was getting better ratings than the NBA.
Right.
So all of that's completely turned today. But I do think you are watching the best of the NBA has ever had. And when you see how the teams are, and, listen, in different eras, it's totally changed because us growing up in 60s, 70s, it was a big man era where you had Kareem and you had Bob Lanier, who was a terrific basketball player. You had people that were really good as the center. Now today, it's totally different. Shooting guard, the shooting forward, those are the keys for your team today. Totally different than how we grew up when you watched a Celtics team. They made a big thing about they had a sixth man.
Right.
Today, you better have more than six guys that can play because you're going to wheel down pretty good. So totally different world. And it's hard to compare. But if you're looking at the best of the best, Drew Brees is in that discussion.
I agree.
And that's the thing that's more aggravating, that people who know it, they don't beat their chests about it. Because, I might offend somebody I'm working with or maybe my network. I'm not going to say anything, if I really go out on a limb and say that because I'm going to get criticism. Well, listen, you're going to get criticism no matter what.
Social media is nothing but criticism.
Yeah, that's why they built it, so to speak. It's not a communication thing. No. It's for people to yell about, certain things that they agree or disagree on.
No doubt. Critique this team now 5 games into the season.
Really good offensive team. Again, they're still looking for some footing in the running game. I think defensively, you
buying into the running game, the ability to stop the run like they're doing at this club. We're going to find out a lot over the next few weeks.
Yeah, because those teams that are patient, they're going to run the ball against New Orleans. You can throw me all the stats you want, and it looks great. Well, you think when the Rams are going to come in, they're going to look at those stats, man, you're going to get a fistful of Todd Gurley the entire game. That's just the way it is. But not a lot of teams are built like that.
True.
They want to throw the football, and they use the backs a lot, but they use them a lot as receivers coming out of the backfield. Even the Ravens, which had been known as a good running team, they don't run the ball today at all. They got 2 tight ends on the lineup, but they use them as receivers.
Yes.
Max Williams and Hayden Hurst, they're just big receivers playing tight end. That's where the game has changed. You watch the Cowboys. The Cowboys are a better team when they feed the ball to Zeke.
Absolutely.
Come on. You're not reinventing the wheel here. And let Dak run with the ball. Let him be what he is as a player. He's more effective that way. I watched the Chargers, and they're a good football team when Phillip Rivers is throwing it. You know when you don't want to face them? When Melvin Gordon's cranking it up.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can make an argument that Todd Gurley, Melvin Gordon are the 2 best backs in the NFL today, the way they play.
Yes.
And they're both really good receivers coming out the backfield.
Michael, what about the defensive backfield at this point? They look like they've gotten better over the last few weeks. Scheme, teams they played, or again, they just shook the rust off?
I think a lot of it has to do with communication and understanding. You still have a weak link there. And this Ravens team, they're going to try to get John Brown, who's a fast guy. I mean, he's the speedster. They're going to try to get John Brown on Ken Crawley. Come on, that's what most teams are going to try to do.
Right.
I think the big thing to make the jump is going to be the development of the young defensive lineman. I said that back in the summer. I'll say it again today. Cam Jordan is who he is. He's one of the elite defensive players in all of the NFL.
Agreed.
But it's the development of Sheldon Rankins and Onyemata and Marcus Davenport. And now Alex Okafor coming back, and he's coming off of a serious injury also, to get that pressure to affect the quarterback. To me, that's the name of the game. That's why today I think the Vikings are a better team up front than the Saints because they can affect the quarterback.
Yes.
You look at the Rams with Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh and Michael Brockers, it's pretty strong. So that's why the development of those young players along the defensive line, I think, is the biggest key come November, December, because if you're going to make a run deep into January, you better be rolling with a pass rush.
You mentioned
late in the year.
last time you were on about Marcus Davenport, that it would take some time, miss some time during the training camp, and of course where he came from Texas San Antonio. He looks like he's kind of rounding into shape now.
Yeah, I think the big thing with me that jumps out is how well he's played the run. Because, we knew about his pass rush exploits. We didn't know how well he played the run because they moved him so much around and teams didn't run the ball toward where he was. They were running the other way. I think that's where you saw the biggest improvement with him. Now it's him piecing together the moves, counter moves to beat an offensive tackle. And listen, Ryan Nielsen told us this at the offensive defensive lineman camp. He's like, Mike, the biggest thing with him is he's so smart and he gets it. And he said athletically, he's at the top level. But how does he react when he goes 0 for 20 in a game? He doesn't make a big play, doesn't make a sack, doesn't have a tackle for a loss, maybe gets in on one tackle. How does he react on play 22 and 23 and 24? And he said that's where the great ones say, man, enough of that. I'll put that aside. I'm going to make a play. And there are very few Khalil Macks in this world, or Von Millers. But he's got a chance to be a difference maker. And you can tell, well, he's got all the athletic ability. Now the moves are starting to come into place. And I think he struggled early because he couldn't get it out of his mind. Man, why am I not making those plays I did in college? Right. Well, those guys on the other side are pretty good too. Yes. And they're experienced. They know how to tie you up. Now he's figured out ways to beat that offensive line.
Counter moves now.
The counter move's the biggest thing. Right. I know in talking to Pete Jenkins, even Coach O, he always talks about that, something you constantly have to work on. Because you say, while you watching film, they are too.
Yep.
They know what move you like to put. So you got to come up with something a little bit different each week. Not like you said, when you're going up against the great ones, they got a couple moves, no matter what you're doing, they're going to beat you.
Can't stop.
One way or another. But he said, when you get into this league, you find out how humbling it is. No matter how good you are, it's a humbling league when they figure out what you can do and what you can't do good. But he's rounded the curve now, and he's an important piece for this football club down the road. And I could say the same thing now about Traquan Smith. I think he's a huge piece to the puzzle here. Without Ted Ginn Jr. the rest of the year, now you're in a spot where he has to step it up. He's the stretch guy. He's the guy that you're going to have to use on the jet sweep if that's what you want to do. And they use Ted a lot in that manner.
Yes.
And what we've seen the last couple of weeks, Traquan get more and more playing time, get more balls thrown his way.
Yes.
I think that's a huge key for this team. And look how it got fueled last year.
Yes.
Early in the season. All of a sudden, Lattimore. And then you got Kamara come in. And you had Ramchak and Marcus Williams. Those guys, by the end of the year, they're not rookies no more. They've got the skins on the wall. They've played. They understand this game. And look what it did to this football team. It fueled them. Now, they don't have that rookie crop. But when you look at it, can Davenport become their version of Lattimore up front? Late in the season.
Mike, a lot of rumors out there about Patrick Peterson, his future in Arizona. They came out today and said they're not trading him. What are your thoughts there?
Well, if I'm the president of the Cardinals, I'm saying the same thing too. I don't want to tell my fans, man, we didn't give up on this season, so I'm trading off Peterson. But I think he's right about, listen, we're going to keep Patrick, and nobody's going to give us what we think he's worth as a player. Now, he's still a star player at this level. There's no question about it. You put him on this team, you understand what that does. And Deion was the one who fueled the fire here, and I agree with him. They're one starting cornerback from being a team you say, that team can get to the Super Bowl. And I still think they can, but he fueled that fire, and he fueled the, hey, why don't the Saints go out and get Patrick Peterson? So I don't know how much the rumors
were real,
or did people call, because that happens all the time. There's a lot more talk than there is action as the trade deadline nears. But I'd have been shocked if the Cardinals would have traded Patrick, because I don't know at this time, somebody's going to give you what he's really worth.
Right. Which you think is?
To me, I want a first-round pick and something extra.
Right.
There ain't a lot of guys that can cover like him.
Agreed.
I'm not going to ask what basically the Raiders asked for Mack because he's a younger player and he's a rusher. It's a different story. But I want at least a first and a third for Patrick Peterson, and I don't know if anybody is going to be willing to give you that up.
Do you think the Saints would have been willing to give that up, considering where they are right now?
I don't think so.
If you're truly one cornerback away from again a dominating defense, you know, it does so many things on different levels. It makes you better up front, makes you better on the second level. Marcus Williams now becomes single high safety. He can play center field. You got obviously Lattimore on the other side. I mean, it's a dream scenario, but again, right now it's a dream.
Yeah, what you would look for is a player that's been a disappointment. And you know what? I'm going to deal him off. I think I can get a little bit of value for him. I don't think he's helping my team right now. Is there a guy like that out there at the present time? Is Conley the guy with the Raiders, an Ohio State guy who plays corner? Would you make that move if it costs you a late-round pick? I think that's a more likely scenario than giving up, say, a 1 and a 3 for Patrick Peterson at this stage.
Talk about this Baltimore team they're going to face this weekend.
There is no elite defense in the NFL. There is none. But they're really good. They're a good defense. And their front seven is really good. I think where they get exposed is on the back end. If you can block, you can go after that secondary. They give you a lot of different looks, and they come after you a lot of different ways. Man, and the poor Titans, they got beat down.
Right.
And when you're watching the game, the two things were evident. They were giving Mariota a lot of different looks where the pressure was coming from.
Yes.
And secondly, he was holding on to the ball. My thing is get rid of it.
And he's injured.
Yeah. My thing is, listen, throw the ball away. Do not take the sack. And he was taking it. I mean, he got racked in that game. You know, about 11 quarterback sacks. My goodness, Eric, you know, it just comes to a point where you can't protect him anymore in that spot. They're really good front seven-wise. I think they're an average at best secondary, especially at the corners. That's where I think you might be able to do a little bit of business, especially Michael Thomas one-on-one with any of their guys. Now, on a 3-4 alignment, you see them a lot of times. They're coming up the field. They're charging real hard. What Mariota couldn't do was kind of sit back and throw the ball over the top and just out in the flat to the running backs. Man, if I'm the Saints and I see that look, I'm getting the ball out to Ingram or Alvin Kamara, and I'm saying, hey, guy, you one-on-one now with the defender. Do your thing. And I do think that'll be part of the Saints' game plan. I don't think either team is going to rush the football real good against each other. I think the Saints have put a lot of effort in stopping the run. Joe Flacco is who he is. You never know how you're going to catch him. And when he is hot, he is a really good passer. And when he's cold, he is a really erratic passer. Now, put him in the playoffs, man, everything lights up for him. But he's immobile. He doesn't get out of the pocket real well. Right. And so that's something, if I'm playing against him, one of the things I try to do is to get interior pressure. Because if I can get that push in the middle and he's got to move, he's going to be moving right into my defensive ends at that point because he can't step up in the pocket to make that throw. So I look for the Saints to do a lot of interior blitzes, maybe with a linebacker or a safety, and try to draw them in at the final moment to see if they can affect the quarterback. Because I think the two tight end sets will give the Saints some issues. They're going to try to roll that, you know, on either side, and try to get the ball out to the two tight ends. And eventually Joe will try. I'd be shocked if he didn't throw the football deep 4 times to John Brown. I mean, I'm going to give that a shot.
Got to go against Crawford.
You know, you take that shot with a big play. He uses tight ends a lot. I think that's something he's going to try to exploit the Saints defense with.
The Saints have not had really any success under Peyton or with Breeze against Baltimore. But again, the AFC North, very, very difficult for them because it's a very physical division.
It's how you built. And, you know, they've lost that battle in the trenches. And that's the thing. When they've lost to the Ravens, it's been because they've lost the battle inside, in the trenches with it. But, man, I was telling somebody this. Buddy D used to always tell me this. This is 2005 now. He said, Mike, two things always remember. One, never bet against Bill Belichick and the Patriots. You are going to lose more money than you could possibly imagine. And this is 05 now, and I think about that. Because one of the years in the 16-game schedule, he took 2 weekends not betting the game. On the 14 others, he was 11-3, and the Patriots covered 11 of the 14 games. Just unbelievable. The second thing is streaks come to an end. Eventually, they come to an end. I think the streak comes to an end this Sunday. I think the way the game is played today, it's an offensive game.
Yes.
And I think eventually, while you might struggle early on, unless the Ravens can score a lot of points and jump on you, Drew Brees is going to come back and catch you.
Mike, how far can this team go?
They stay healthy, they can make it to the Super Bowl. You look at it, the Rams, I think, are going to be the biggest obstacle course. And I think you watch them. Listen, if you take off that black and gold cap, they're the best team right now in the NFL. Defensively, they're not great, but they're good. The Vikings, I just don't know. They have two key cogs that aren't there. Everson Griffin at defensive end, who's having some issues off the field, and Dalvin Cook, who again is going to miss this week with an injury. And he was so effective when he was healthy last year for him. So the Eagles are who they are. They are street fighters to the end. If you get in a street fight, give me those guys, because I know we got a shot there. But listen, it's as good a Saints team, they have as good a chance as they did in 11. And that team, to me, was the best Saints football team. It just got caught in a crazy game in San Francisco and you got beat out.
Well, they got to do the right thing, not do like they did back in 11. They got to get some home field advantage here.
Well, you're going to need some help.
Yep.
Somebody's got to trip the Rams somewhere along the line and give you a little bit of help. But, well, listen, you got to give the Rams credit.
Absolutely.
What McVay's done, and they got a stud player, and Todd Gurley, and that defense with Wade, you know what you're going to get out of them.
You want to talk about the Saints putting all the chips in the middle of the table?
They did.
They did, too.
And they tried to make the deal for Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
The only reason the Raiders took the Bears deal was they thought the picks would be better, and they were going to only do it for 1 year. They were going to turn around and trade Khalil because they knew they couldn't sign him.
Right.
It goes to show, I think they know what they've got right now. Hey, listen, let's do it while you got a chance.
And, of course, that Los Angeles market. I mean, again, a lot of times they could care less about football. They're already talking about, the situation with the Chargers. Nobody wants to see the Chargers. Again, you're trying to be able to get a market share there. You want people to come see your team. Best way to do that is to have a winning team, an exciting team.
I think the Rams have pulled some of that. But, it's still baseball country.
Yes, it is.
The Dodgers.
Yes.
And now you got LeBron.
Now you got
LeBron.
That's right.
And so you fighting it a little bit there. And I understand the Chargers because they almost consider, why are you here? Why are you here? I think the Chargers are a really good football team, and they're really good when they're going to get Joey Bosa back.
Yep, no doubt. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Andrews. Tonight, Mike Detillier is our guest. We'll take a quick break, get some words from our underwriters. Then we're going to talk some LSU. We'll talk Tulane and Pelicans on the way back. Don't go anywhere.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Mike Detillier is our guest tonight.
Mike, LSU 6-1. What a game! What a game! What a game! They crushed Georgia, the second-ranked Bulldogs, 36-16. Now back to number 5. I mentioned it last week. I thought the voters were wrong, and again, knocking them out of the top 10. They catapult right back into the top 10 and the top 5. I'm not even going to throw superlatives in anything. I want to turn it over to you. Your thoughts, because let me tell you something. You take a lot of heat about Coach O. I hear it on the
listen,
radio.
if I could have got Coach O a job, I'd have got me a job as the head coach too.
Everybody wants to talk about Mike Detillier and Coach O. I'm happy for Coach O. I know people in Louisiana who are happy for Coach O. And, we had, obviously you know him all your life. It's got to be he's got to be feeling really good right now about his team.
Yeah, I'm thrilled for the Tiger Nation.
Yes.
Because this was unexpected. Mm-hmm. Listen, you lying if you said you thought they'd be 6-1 at this stage.
Not with that schedule.
On, but whatever. They got people that tell you that today, but you know that's not accurate. But the one thing, and I was telling you this off the air, back in June, and talking to O, he told me, Mike, we're going to be a lot better than people give us credit for right now. And he said, there are some pieces I can't tell you about because I don't know how they react to playing. But he said, listen, we're going to be really good on defense, and I think we can run the ball. How well we can throw the ball, and I just hope Cole Tracy is the guy we see in practice in game. So, listen, I'm thrilled for the Tiger Nation. It was a signature win. I'm thrilled for Coach O. He's taken a lot of heat, took a lot more than me about it. And, Bobby catches the same thing. Sure. Oh, you guys all from the Bayou, y'all got him the job. Listen, the one guy that got Coach O the job at LSU, Pete Carroll. Pete made that call. When Tom Herman decided, I'm going to Texas, Pete got on the phone and he called Joe Oliva. And it was actually Pete Carroll that he swung a lot of influence with Joe. At the end, when I think Joe may have wanted to look a little bit and then figured, listen, I'll give Coach O a shot. So, and he's matured as a coach.
Yes. He
had never been a head coach before when he took over at Ole Miss. And I could see that was going to not be good. And I told him real early, Coach, you can't do some of the things you're doing. These practices of 70 plays and you just getting too hard on these coaches and players. He recruited well, and Houston Nutt won big once he left. But, it was a revolving door of offensive coordinators. And I got to give Steve credit, too. Steve Ensminger has done a tremendous job.
Another guy that got a lot of flack was an unknown there in terms of his ability to be able to call an offense. Got to give him credit.
I think, Eric, the big thing is when you look at this season, it boils down to that upper level of none of us knew how good Joe Burrow and Cole Tracy would be.
True.
They have been the two biggest difference makers on this LSU team. Joe, with everything on the line, listen, he got ice water rolling through the veins, and he's a tough dude. Because if you look at him, first time you meet him, and Ed told me, Mike, he's tough. He's a really tough kid. And I was like, okay. It goes to show sometimes when you kind of meet somebody that didn't come across that way. And Ed had one of the best lines. He said, listen, we played in front of more people in high school in one game than Cole Tracy had his entire career at Assumption. He said it's unbelievable that, he wasn't, 900 people were going to Assumption games. So it's like, I just hope that he can handle the pressure. He's done a great job. But the second level has to be talked about, too. 2 weeks before the season, you didn't know Christian Fulton would be on this team. And just look how well he's played opposite Greedy Williams.
Yes.
He's been outstanding. You had a big void when Will Clapp left early.
Agreed.
And that was one thing Coach O told me about. Man, I hated to see Will leave. I understand why he left, but boy, that puts a big void for us. You didn't know about Lloyd Cushenberry.
Right.
He's been outstanding as a center, picking up the inside blitzes, getting to the second level to throw a block. And he's been the one steady guy. Because when Garrett Brumfield went down, you wondered, how this, and it stayed together for him. And they'll have Garrett for the Alabama game, but they won't have him against State. Avery Atkins, and he was a guy, Greg McMahon told me, He's a preferred walk-on. He's a kid that played safety, linebacker, and kicker in Alabama, and we think he's really good. Look at those kickoffs.
Right. Not just that.
Ow.
Look at the linebacker mentality going after that fumble.
Yeah, sometimes when you watch the play, and he's trailing it now because he don't want to get hit. He's like everybody, every other kicker. And all of a sudden the ball scoots out, and he makes the play to grab it. And that was an important play. The other guy, too, and I give him great credit, Nick Brossette. He had to wait his time. He could have easily said, man, I'm cashing out. I'm going to play somewhere where I can see more playing time. When you have a Leonard Fournette and a Darius Geis and Darrell Williams ahead of you, it would have been easy to say, end of it, I'm out of here. He stayed, and just how big of an impact he has had on that offensive team. So, man, when you look at it, Cushenberry, Brossette, Atkins, Christian Fulton, to go along with Cole Tracy and Joe Burrow. The negative was losing Caleb Von Chason because you don't have anybody like him on this football team. Listen, he's a rare tiger in the woods. There is not many people that can rush the quarterback like he can. But you look all the other pieces, they all fell into place. Special teams have not been a liability this year. They've been able to run the ball, and all this stuff about, LSU's going to spread it out and they're going to throw the ball. Man, I know where Ed Ogeron grew up at. Right. And I know what colleges he was at. Those teams won because they had balance and they could run the ball. He wasn't giving up running the football to throw the football 15 times in a quarter. That wasn't happening. So that's always been there, and he's done it with an offensive line that had not played with the same combination up until the Georgia game.
Which is amazing. Okay, again, not having a continuity within the offensive line. And some can say, as you look back to Florida, which I thought they got physically dominated, that was part of the deal. I mean, again, this revolving door on the offensive line. They surely turned it around against Georgia.
Yeah, they did. I think one of the things that's disappointing to him is teams have had success running the ball. Florida did it, and Georgia when they wanted to.
Why is that, though?
They're finding the gaps. You saw a couple times in the Florida game, there's a guy in a position to make a play. He either overruns it or he misses the tackle. Right. And I think that's the most frustrating thing for Dave Aranda. Come on, you're in a position to make the play, make it. But once they got Phillips back, he brings a big physical presence. And nothing against Michael Baskerville, who I think will be a starter next year for you. But he's a true freshman. He's 18 years old. I don't know if you're going up against some grown men. And you know what State's going to give you. They're going to come out and they're going to run the football. Nick Fitzgerald's a 50% passer. Come on, he's not beating teams throwing the ball. And I thought Joe Moorhead he tried to convert him into a pro-style quarterback, and their offense sunk like the Titanic. It just wasn't going anywhere. Then when you saw him against Auburn, you saw much more of the Nick Fitzgerald you saw when Dan Mullen was there. And I got people asking me all the time, well, what's the difference? Dan Mullen, Dan ran the show there. But their defense, they are who we thought they are. Right. They're really good. Yes. And they'll have 2 first-round pick defensive linemen. Jeffrey Simmons, who's my 9th-rated player. Martez Sweat, who is 29, or he's tied for 29. And then Jonathan Abrams, who's a safety, who would probably grade 34, 35. So they got 3 first-round picks on defense. So they are who they are on defense. My thing is, if you stop the run, then you've got something there. And I do think I watch Nick Fitzgerald, he reminds me of a bigger version of Taysom Hill. You look at him, he's 6'5", he's 235 pounds. But man, he can run. He runs with power, he runs with speed. Now, if you're asking him to win a game throwing it, you might be waiting a while. But he's highly erratic throwing the football. But his athletic ability is like a bigger version of Taysom Hill. And that's going to cause LSU some problems this week. They have had problems with the RPO quarterback, keeping the ball, the pitch, not playing it right. I think that's something Dave Aranda that is stuck in his craw pretty good. But you don't have Dan Mullen on that sidelines. That, I think, is the big difference for Mississippi State.
Mike, how do they guard against a letdown? Well, it's a classic trap game here.
It is, but I told you the story after the game, man, and everybody's hooping and hollering, and Ed plays up to it because he's an emotional guy, and he wants his team to play with a lot of emotion. And, he always gives that final thing about, hey, guys, 24-hour, we celebrate, we have a great time, no, don't get into any trouble. And just remember what State did us last year. And he said it got silent in that room. It was 37-7. Mm-hmm. The score was no indication of how dominant Mississippi State was in that game. And he got their attention real quick about, hey, listen, let the talk show people, let the TV people talk about Alabama. Let's take care of business this week against State. We got it at home. Let's take care of business. Because you know what? For all that talk about Alabama, it ain't going to mean nothing if you lose to Mississippi State. And so I think he got their attention pretty good. But he did tell me last Thursday was the absolute worst practice we've had all season long. So he said, all that stuff about practice makes perfect?
Yes.
He said, the Thursday practice was as bad as he's had all season long. But he said, when we came back to Friday, we had, everything sort of settled. So, sometimes those practice sessions, you wonder a little bit about how it's, mentally you focusing in on a game.
Why the difference from a physical standpoint? The way they played against Florida on the offensive and defensive lines, and then the way they came out and played against Georgia, almost complete opposites.
Well, I think offensively the tempo was so quick. Steve has told me this in the offseason, Mike, when I'm going to feel comfortable with the quarterback, we're going to run up-tempo offense. Reasoning is you can't substitute, and I catch you thinking. And one of the things was, he said, you look back at the tape and these fast-paced offenses, and it happened to LSU. Look at what happened to them against Syracuse and then Troy. It would hurry up, get up to the line of scrimmage. They were catching them off guard. There was a lot of miscommunication with the defenders. And so one guy makes a breakdown, you make a big play. Look at Georgia. How many breakdowns? Because Kirby Smart was pulling that visor, and you could see he was so upset because they hadn't seen that on tape. They hadn't seen LSU get up to the line of scrimmage running those plays that quickly.
It was genius. It really was.
And I think that was one of the things that's different from a year ago. And I'm going to repeat something I told you in the spring, but I'll say it again. That was a lack of trust between the head coach and Matt Canada, offensive coordinator. And we all work with people that are talented, but for whatever reason, they rub us the wrong way. Sure. And we never get along with them, never. And it was a bad situation between the two. And Matt forgot that in front of Coach O's name is HC, head coach. Yep. He's the final say. And Canada wanted to start Miles Brennan. That was his deal from the summer. He wanted Miles over Danny Etling, and that's not what Coach O wanted. This year, the big difference is Coach O trusts Steve Ensminger and what he's doing offensively. It's a mix of a lot of different people's opinions that they're pieced together, but this is Steve's offense that he runs and does a really good job with it. Steve has ultimate trust in Joe Burrow, and that wasn't there last year between Matt Canada and Danny Etling. He didn't have the full trust in him.
How do you think they combat Fitzgerald this weekend? Do they use a spy? They straight up on him? What do you think
my
they do?
thing is I crowd the line of scrimmage and say, you're not running the ball on me. I'm going to stick my cornerbacks one-on-one downfield.
Agreed.
And if there's a spy, it's Delpit.
Yes. You think it's Delpit?
I think it might be Delpit.
Okay.
They kind of move around, use him on the blitz, try to affect the pitch. I think that's the thing that has caught LSU is the pitch right off the bat. But if you stop the run, you're putting that W in your pocket.
Yep.
Because Fitzgerald's not going to beat you throwing
I agree with that. 866-3200, 866-3200. Pelicans last night opened up against Houston.
That was impressive.
131-112. Dominant with their big men, Mirotic, Davis, and Randall coming off the bench. Hometown guy, Elfrid Payton, with a triple-double, 10 points across the board, rebounds, assists, and points. And Drew Holiday holding the MVP James Harden to 18 points last night. It was an incredible performance by the Pelicans on the road to start a game, and give Anthony Davis a lot of credit as well. You know, again, I've criticized him for not being a leader on this team, having import leaders. It looks like he's made that next move now. He's going to be the leader of this team on and off the court. You could see that last night.
Yeah, and he is such a dominant force.
Lord.
I think he gets underrated for his defensive skills.
True.
He intimidates everybody that gets in the paint. You see a little bit of a hitch on most of those passes or a shot when they get into the paint because he is so dominant a shot blocker. And I think about this a lot. My brother and I have talked about this. He looks like what Bill Walton, you know, we grew up, Bill Walton was so great at UCLA. That's what we thought Bill Walton would be before he hurt his foot and his leg when he went to Portland, because he was that type of player too. Anthony's just done a great job, but I think Drew Holiday's defense last night to me stuck. Here, James Harden, you know, with all this point shooting ability, he got a few, but very few. And I think with Holiday, that's a big part of the game. And I thought it was, along with Rondo last year, a big part of them advancing.
Yes,
their defense, not necessarily all about offense, but how well they play defense. And it was an outstanding performance. And Randall coming off the bench is huge. One thing I worried about him was he hadn't been much of a player. And then all of a sudden in his money year, he played well for the Lakers. That was one guy at the end that ascended. It was Randall. Does he go back to being the guy that we saw before, or was that the money play?
Right.
And you're basing it off of one game.
Sure.
But I think he's a good fit.
And I think the word is fit, too. I think you look at Elfrid Payton and you look at Julius Randle and you say, in this up-tempo style, they are a fit. You know, Randall, again, has been a guy that most of his career has been a starter. He came off the bench last night. He'll be doing that as a six-man role here. The physicality that he came in with last night, the ability to shoot three-point shots, that's never been his forte. We don't know if he's going to do that week in, week out, game in, game out. But again, we know he can rebound. You know he can score around the basket. And look, getting up and down the floor, something we didn't see with Boogie Cousins last year as well. You know, Rondo would turn it on when it was a national television game or playoffs. Elfrid Payton has the ability to do what he did last night, every night. I'm not saying triple-double every night, but again, move the basketball, take the open shot when you got it, and of course his ability to penetrate.
They're going to give him the open shot. So much attention is going to be paid to Drew Holiday and to Anthony. They're going to give you the shot. Now, you got to make them that. Right. That's going to be the key here. And, you know, when the big guy can hit the three-point shot, that opens up a lot for Elfrid to make those plays. The one question mark, when you look at the really good teams in the NBA, is the depth.
Yes.
And
they only played 8 last night.
They played 8 last night.
Ian Clark did not see the court last night.
That's going to be something I want to see evolve on this team.
Right.
Because you're seeing the really good teams, they got 10.
Right. And especially if you're going to play this style. If you're going to play this up-tempo style,
you're going to wear down.
You have to be able to have at least 10 players you can count on night in, night out. You don't want to wear Anthony Davis and the starters down. And you might as well say the sixth man as well throughout the season.
But it's funny when you think about it, the NBA and the winning teams, and it's fast break, up and down the court, up and down the court. And you know what? Football's mimicked.
Yes.
They've mimicked it.
Oh, yes.
You know, when you watch college football, pro football, they have taken that and said, you know what? We're going to play basketball on grass.
No doubt. No doubt about it. You see it all the time. Before we go to the phone lines, Anthony Davis, a lot of speculation on where he'll be within the next couple of years. Obviously, if he's not going to sign the Supermax contract in the offseason, $230 million over 5 years, then the Pelicans are going to be in a position where they're going to have to start to look to deal him. You know, I talked about it on the radio show today. He mentioned the organization last night. He mentioned his team. He mentioned his coaches, who he was playing for, and himself. Never mentioned the fans. Never mentioned the city. Now, maybe that was just, you know, a full power on his part. The city's got to come out. The fans have got to come out, and they got to give a home court advantage at Smoothie King Center. We have not seen that traditionally since he's been here, the 6 years he's been here. We saw it in flashes when Paul and West and Chandler were here. We've seen it in flashes when this team has made playoff runs. This is a team that looks like it's going to be a pretty good team this year, and it's an exciting form of basketball to watch. I got to believe that that's also in Ant Davis' head, you know, again, about having a true home court advantage people have to start go out and support the Pelicans.
Yeah, I think even more than that, though, I think he wants the supporting cast. He has seen what's happened at Golden State.
Yes.
He saw what happened with the Miami Heat when they loaded up for those couple years. Saw it even with the Cavaliers for that run. They loaded up on players. I think more than maybe fan support or anything, I think he wants to see that commitment that, hey, listen, I feel as though I'm the best player in the game, but give me some help too. Give me more help.
I would agree with you.
I think that's the biggest key for him to stay or not stay, because this is really not. I hate to put it this way, but I think it's true. This is really not a basketball town.
It's not.
It's never been a basketball town. Now, Baton Rouge, when LSU, with Dale Brown, when they were winning, it was a basketball situation, and it may be again with Will Wade. I don't know that. When Ned Fowler was winning at Tulane, basketball town. Same thing at UNO, in that sort of spot. You look at the past history of this team with the Jazz, they didn't have much success. People came out to see Pete.
Right.
I want to see Maravich. And they had one run, and Pete gets hurt.
Right.
So I think for that standpoint, if I'm a player, I'm much more concerned about what's around me. Because I think if we win, then we're going to have everybody behind us.
That's the thing. I think that, again, that we have been front-running fans here in New Orleans.
For basketball.
Only supporting for basketball. Look, I think Gail Benson will pay the luxury tax if she feels she's got to win a chance to win a championship. Right now they got Drew Holiday, one of the best two-way guards in the NBA, and you've got Anthony Davis, and you've got a nice supporting cast of Mirotic, Randall, Payton, etc. I'm right. You're right. You need another superstar on this team. The question is, again, will Anthony Davis stay here long enough for them to do that? They're going to be out of cap hell this year, okay? They'll have some contracts coming off the board. They have a lot of contracts set up for next season. They can make that move next year if they need to, if Davis signs that Supermax deal.
The other thing, too, is you can never predict free agency in the NBA.
True.
You got a much better shot in the NFL than you do in the NBA.
Absolutely.
Nobody thought Chris Paul would end up in Houston.
Right.
With all the other teams that got thrown out there, Houston was on the 4 or 5 teams, but that wasn't where everybody thought.
Well, how's he going to play with James Harden?
How that was going to mix. When LeBron first started talking about coming out, a lot of people had him maybe going to the Sixers, maybe going to the Clippers. The Lakers were in the conversation, but bang, he ends up there. It's hard to predict free agency. And I had an NBA agent tell me this, and I really believe it's true. He says, with a lot of these young men, money is one thing. Who's got the last say in their ear? At that final moment, who's got that last say? And I think that's going to become important with Anthony. Is that last say is, hey, listen, we're going to give you the other pieces to help build this basketball team. And we've done some of it, but we know we can add more, what you talked about, opening up more cap space.
Yep, no doubt. And look, it is
this team's not getting built by the draft.
No, and it never has. You got lucky with Anthony Davis. After that, again, that's not been Dell Demps' MO in terms of being patient and again, grooming a team through the draft. It's a defining season for this fan base, for this organization, and for Anthony Davis. Let's head to the phone lines. Greg is in Houma. Greg called us at 866-3200. Hey, Greg, how you doing?
I'm good. I just have to get something off my chest about when Drew Brees broke the passing record. How in the world can the NFL accept throwing an excessive penalty flag for celebration? And what if that was a momentum shift? Let's forget about the score. I think the NFL needs to owe Drew Brees and the Saints an apology. And let's say it happened to Peyton Manning when he did it. This could have been a momentum switch, and I don't know how to answer this. I'm just going to hang up and listen.
Greg, if you're waiting for an apology, you ain't going to get it.
You say it.
Man, listen, the NFL don't apologize to nothing. They got obvious calls they miss, and the referees are human. They're going to miss some calls. But this, to me, was insulting at that moment. It made absolutely no sense at all.
You're going to stop the game anyway, so what's the difference?
Yeah, and so, man, I just don't get it.
I didn't either.
You wonder why they're turning off some fans. And these are the type moments that you shake your head about who is the one with the common sense?
Well, if you're the NFL, you embrace this type of moment.
Absolutely. It's a positive
Right.
moment for you.
Right.
After a season of last year of a lot of distractions
Absolutely.
across the board. And you might say, well, we had nothing to do with it. Yo, you had everything to do with it. You could have cleared all of that up very quickly if you'd have had a commissioner with a backbone, which you don't have today. True. The other 32 owners control him. Mm-hmm. But my thing about the penalty made absolutely no sense.
Agreed.
And it goes to show you the lack of common sense that's not being used in a lot of times in the NFL.
Amen. Greg, Jeffrey is on the West Bank. Jeffrey, welcome. Hey, Jeffrey.
Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you for calling.
I think we need to be careful how we describe a town that has major sports in a town. It doesn't benefit to say that New Orleans is not a basketball town.
It's not. Jeffrey, it's not. It's not a pure basketball town. It's never been. But if you win, people are going to come out. Just look at how they've basically put people in the stands in other years. You know, they're not coming out to watch basketball. They might come out to watch LeBron, right. Or they might come out to watch the Celtics. They watch stars. But you have to kind of cultivate that. And I think that's something we still in the growing stages with cultivating this team, that they are legitimate contender. Right. I think that's the thing that gets everybody's attention.
You want to finish up, Jeffrey?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Oh yeah, I just imagine if we was in that stage 20 years ago where we didn't have a team, and we're trying to get a team, and you have people in prominent positions in sports in the local area talking like that, like this is not a basketball town. How are you going to keep a team, or how are you going to lure a team to the city talking like that? You have to be optimistic about it.
Right. We appreciate the phone call.
One of the things with Jeffrey doesn't get is one of the reasons why the Jazz isn't here. They didn't draw.
Well, they drew, but to me it was more about
mismanagement.
No, there's no doubt mismanagement. It was more about the owner wanting to get this team more to
and
the West
he
Coast.
wanted to leave.
Right.
Okay. It's the same thing in Seattle.
Right. Oh, no doubt.
And you look at Paul Allen. Mm-hmm. Had Paul Allen, listen, when you think of Portland, you're not thinking of pro basketball. No. Paul Allen wanted that team in the Northwest.
Right.
And he put it there. And listen, I give Paul a lot of credit. Mm-hmm. That was not known as basketball country. And yet I wanted there. And he drove it through, and it's worked for Portland. But they've been in the playoffs, I think, 23 times since he's owned the team, and they've been in the finals twice.
And they sell out constantly.
And they sell out.
Right.
It's different here because of the distractions.
Right. And it's the only game in town for the most part, outside of soccer.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is we have a lot of other things to do.
Right.
And the disposable money, because, this economy has sort of went up and down and up and down and up and down. And people are involved in Mardi Gras. Mm-hmm. And they put their money aside for Saints. And, they're doing other things. To put that money aside for basketball, you got to be a fan.
Yep.
You're just not going out for an outing. You want to be you have to be a fan to do it. And I think that's what is along the way, not quite there yet.
Mike, thanks for being with us as always. Certainly appreciate your time tonight. Mike Detillier with us tonight on Inside New Orleans. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night right here on WLAE-TV at 10 p.m. You can catch us every Friday night at 9 p.m. on Pelican Sports Television. Catch me on the radio, Sports 1280, 101.1 FM HD2, and the iHeart Radio app. That is noon to 2 weekdays. You can listen live, download the podcast at ericasher.com. You catch all the previous episodes of Inside New Orleans Sports at ericasher.com as well. Again, special thanks to Mike Detillier for joining us tonight. Also to the WLE production staff, including Rod Yeager, Jim Dodson, Kenny Juno, the original, is back tonight. Also, Alex Chacon, and my director, William Hill. Thanks so much for watching. For Mike Detillier, I'm Eric Asher. We'll see you next week with another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.